As China prepares to celebrate International Children's Day tomorrow, June the 1st, questions are being asked about just how much the authorities and society are actually doing to protect one group of children, elementary schoolgirls, from sexual abuse. Historically, the problem has been little discussed in public and until recently virtually ignored by the press. In fact, the legal daily newspaper and Beijing Teenagers Legal Aid and Research Center carried out a survey which found that from 2005 till today, a minuscule 40 cases involving child sexual assault were openly reported in the press. But in these cases, 80% of the perpetrators were adults known to the victims and 45% were public employees. The issue came to widespread public attention earlier this month when a school principal in Hainan province was discovered to have taken a number of elementary school girls to a local hotel. He and another man have since been charged with rape after spending the night with the girls, all under 14 years old. Meanwhile, another report from the Huashan News says that 8 cases of school-related sexual assaults occurred within just 20 days in May across China. And China's Supreme People's Court has now chimed in, vowing to crack down on such crimes. It highlighted the penalties meted out in 3 recent cases, including the execution of an elementary school teacher who repeatedly raped 7 students. To hear some of the online reaction to this recently much discussed topic, let's cross over now to the newsroom where our researcher Esther Dung is standing by. Okay, Esther, as I mentioned, not much discussed about this really until very recently, but now that this has begun to be talked about publicly, what are you hearing in the online forums?
Well, first, of course, many of the comments have expressed anger at what's happened to these young girls. This one on ChinaNews.com is a fairly typical reaction. These adults are nothing but beasts. They deserve to be killed 1,000 times over. And Yang Luoluo writes on Weibo.com, attitudes towards women and children are a symbol of our country's degree of civilization. Unfortunately, we haven't yet entered the stage of modern civilization. And in addition, many point out the long silence there's been over something which everyone knows has existed for years. Listen to this take from Xiong Bingqi, a famous Chinese educationist. Sexual abuse towards children happens all the time. It just didn't attract media and public attention until very recently. What's more, the China Daily published an article saying that plenty of people who are now in their 20s or 30s have begun reporting that they had encountered different kinds of sexual harassment or assaults when they were young.
Well, China certainly wouldn't be the only country where it's taken a long time to break down those walls of silence surrounding this. Okay, then on that topic, how about the survey I mentioned there, which shows that 45% of the perpetrators are public employees? Now, that presumably means school employees or officials, right?
Well, that's what most people presume, as most school employees in China are public employees too. But first, I'd like to point out that, of course, plenty of posters think the real situation is far more serious. Du Du Niao on China.com says, these figures all come from openly reported cases. So how about those kept in the dark? If all cases were taken into consideration, I'm afraid the proportions would be frighteningly larger. And a lot more are not surprised by the number of public employees implicated. Chi Wansu says on Yahoo.com, it's no news to me. These people have power, and the law isn't a threat for them. And Xiong Bingqi, the educationist I just mentioned, as this. Cases of sexual abuse of children should be transferred to judicial departments. But in China, lots of these cases are dealt with by administrative departments. And usually, in the end, nothing happens. But there are still a certain number of posters who have a bone to pick with the survey statistics. One typical example is Cao Lin, who writes on the China Youth Daily. The so-called openly reported cases can't represent the whole situation. Just think about what kind of stories will attract the media. Officials having sex with schoolgirls is news, but villagers raping little kids is not. So based on an unrepresentative sample, how can the survey reach scientific conclusions?
Okay, now putting aside the arguments over the survey itself, some of the comments you quoted there mentioned the aspect of these officials being people with power over the law or disdain for the law. But have net users come up with any other reasons for these occurrences?
Oh yes, quite a lot actually. Some blame China's education system. This is from qingdaonews.com. Chinese education produces obedient kids, but the more obedience, the less independent thoughts and self-protection awareness. We should teach our kids to say no when necessary. And others pointed to the phenomenon of left behind children. These are the tens of millions of children left in the countryside when their parents migrate to the cities for work. They are often left in the care of elderly grandparents or other relatives who can't really look after them. This poster Han Jingwei says, they are the most vulnerable group in terms of danger of sexual abuse. And our sex education has long lagged behind that of other countries. And some even point out some controversial changes in Chinese laws. Liao Xin says on zhgpl.com. According to our law, having sex with a girl under 14 is only a crime of soliciting an underage girl, but not a crime of rape. That certainly does not look good when it comes to safeguarding the interests of our children. And then there are posters who point out that when their kids are sexually abused, lots of parents simply can't get justice. This poster on 163.com sarcastically refers to the prominent case of the mother of a rape victim who was herself detained for protesting. If one day you find your daughter has been raped and mistreated, then you have to go to petitioner offices hundreds of times. And also you will have to be prepared to be detained. And if you are very lucky, finally you will get some feedback from somebody in charge who says, why are you making trouble for us?
Okay, finally, Esther, there's been some public criticism of the silence from officialdom, relative silence at least, about these recent cases, such as that one in Hainan. What's NetUser's reaction been to that?
Before answering this question, first I'd like to say that there's a huge contrast between the official reactions and the public reactions. One anti-abuse activist, a woman named Ye Haiyan, actually stood outside the school involved in the Hainan case and held a banner which read, principles, if you want one night stand, contact me. And this almost immediately spread to the online community, with net users writing similar phrases on papers and taking pictures and posting them online. But for a contact number, they write 110. That's the police emergency number in China. But it seems Ye's highlighting of the case hasn't pleased everyone. When she returned to her home province of Guangxi, she was attacked by unidentified people in her house. She's since been detained by police. But getting back to the official response, or lack of it, well, a lot of posters certainly aren't happy with what they see as inaction by the authorities. And many have drawn a comparison with the popular response. I'll finish up with this from this poster, Xiaoqin 333, who asks, Children's Day is coming, so are sexual abuse scandals the way for us to celebrate this day? When even ordinary people dare to stand up and show their feelings, how can our Education Ministry and Women's Federation stand by and say nothing? What are they doing?
Okay, thanks for that, Esther. And then it was China Take researcher Esther Dung with online reaction to those recent revelations of sexual abuse in elementary schools in China. Next up on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.